Michigan has a ghost town where children's handprints appear on the cars of visitors who park there, and nobody can explain them. It has a valley where a mysterious light has been floating nightly for decades that TV investigators and scientists have attempted to debunk without reaching a consensus. There is a psychiatric asylum so dark that it was featured on Ghost Hunters, Expedition X, and Destination Fear, and it is still standing. Number 3 has a history so disturbing that locals who grew up near it describe it in the same breath as they describe avoiding it. These are not Halloween attractions. These are actual Michigan towns with actual histories that have made people uncomfortable for a very long time. Subscribe now or visit these places alone at night. Those are your two options. Starting at number 10, Paulding, in the Upper Peninsula, just south of the Wisconsin border. Population around 700. And the home of one of Michigan's most persistently unexplained phenomena, the Paulding Light. The Paulding Light is a mysterious floating light that appears nightly in the valley below Robbins Pond Road. It has been appearing consistently for decades. The local legend says it is the ghost of a railroad worker who was killed on the tracks that once ran through the valley, and whose lantern still swings in the dark as he patrols his route. The light appears, it bobs, it changes color. It has been there for so long that the Forest Service installed an official sign directing visitors to the viewing area. Television investigators came. Scientists came. A University of Michigan team concluded the light was likely car headlights from a highway miles away, refracted through atmospheric conditions. The problem with that explanation is that the light predates the highway, and the light continues appearing on nights when no cars are visible on that stretch of road. Locals who have watched it for years say the scientific explanation does not match what they see. The sign on Robbins Pond Road has no explanation on it. It just points toward the light and lets the valley speak for itself. Number 9 has handprints on cars, left by children who have been dead for over a century. Number 9, Pere Cheney, Crawford County, a town that no longer exists, which is part of what makes it creepy. Pere Cheney was a logging community established in the 1870s. By 1917, it was gone. The cemetery is what remains. Pere Cheney is called the most haunted town in Michigan. The actual history is grim enough without embellishment. The community was devastated by multiple diphtheria outbreaks in the late 1800s that killed large numbers of residents, including many children. The deaths were concentrated and rapid. The cemetery holds the graves of those victims, small headstones for children who died within days of each other in successive epidemics. Visitors who park near the cemetery have reported finding children's handprints on their cars that were not there when they arrived. The handprints are small. The accounts are consistent enough across unconnected visitors that Michigan paranormal researchers treat Pere Cheney as a primary investigation site. Whether the handprints have a rational explanation or not, the history that produced the cemetery is real. Children died here in numbers that the headstones document with a specificity that does not require embellishment. Number 8 has a bridge, and the thing that happened at the bridge has kept people out of the woods around it for generations. Number 8, Rockford, in Kent County, north of Grand Rapids, and the location of Hell's Bridge, a small stone footbridge over the Rogue River that local legend has made one of the most avoided places in western Michigan. The legend of Hell's Bridge involves Elias Frisk, a settler accused in the 1800s of murdering children and throwing their bodies from the bridge into the river. The story has been told in the Rockford area for so long that it has acquired the weight of local fact, though the historical documentation is disputed. What is not disputed is the atmosphere of the place. A narrow footpath through dense woods near midnight, leading to a small bridge over dark water in a location that requires a long walk down unlit trails to reach. Visitors who have been there at night describe an experience that requires no supernatural enhancement. The isolation, the darkness, the sound of the river, and the knowledge of what the local legend says happen there combine into something that most people describe as genuinely unsettling. Rockford itself is a pleasant Kent County suburb during the day. The woods around Hell's Bridge are a different matter after dark. Number 7 is an island, and being on an island at night, moment when the last ferry has left and the history presses in, is a different experience than visiting during the day. Number 7, Mackinac Island. In our Strange Towns video, Mackinac Island appeared because of the car ban. In this video, it appears for a different reason entirely. Mackinac Island is believed to be one of the most haunted places in the state of Michigan, and its isolation makes that reputation feel different in October than it does in July. The Grand Hotel was constructed on top of the first military post's burial ground. Guests and staff have reported paranormal activity in the hotel for decades. Doors opening on their own, objects moving, figures appearing in mirrors. The Fort Mackinac Cemetery contains the graves of soldiers dating to the 1700s. The island's position in the Straits of Mackinac, where Lake Huron and Lake Michigan meet, a crossing point that Native nations considered spiritually significant long before European contact, gives the location a layer of history that predates the ghost stories by centuries. In summer, Mackinac Island is fudge shops and carriage rides and tourists in matching windbreakers. In October, after the summer season ends and the crowds thin and the last ferry runs in darkness, the island is something else. Paranormal investigators who have spent time there off-season describe the experience as categorically different from the summer version. The horses are still there, the hotel is still lit, the history is the same. The crowd is not. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe. We cover Michigan every week, the beautiful version and the one that keeps people up at night. Now, back to the list. Number 6. South Manitou Island. In Lake Michigan off the Leelanau Peninsula. Accessible only by ferry from Leland, and the place that Thrillist named the creepiest location in Michigan. The one entry on its list of the 50 most haunted places in America, one per state, that represented Michigan. South Manitou Island has the specific atmosphere that comes from combination of beautiful, isolated, and historically troubled. The island was a provisioning stop for ships crossing Lake Michigan in the 19th century. The Francisco Morazan, a cargo ship, ran aground off the island's shore in 1960 and has been rusting there ever since. Visible from the beach, its hull slowly collapsing into the lake. The abandoned farmsteads of the families who once lived here stand in varying states of decay. The Valley of the Giants, a stand of ancient white cedars some over 500 years old, is silent in a way that old-growth forests are silent. There are no permanent residents, no electricity, no stores. Campers who stay overnight are the only humans on an island that once had a functioning community, a lighthouse keeper's family, and a cemetery. The cemetery is still there, the people are not. The last ferry leaves in the afternoon. If you miss it, you stay until morning. That specific circumstance, like being stranded on an island with a shipwreck on the beach and an abandoned settlement in the woods, concentrates the mind in specific ways. Number 5 is not an island. Number 5 is a building, and the building's history is the reason it has been on every paranormal television program that covers Michigan. Number 5, Westland, Wayne County. Specifically Eloise, the former Wayne County Poorhouse and Psychiatric Complex that operated from 1839 to 1984, and was at its peak the largest psychiatric hospital in Michigan, housing over 10,000 patients on a self-contained campus with its own farm, bakery, and power plant. The history of Eloise is documented in ways that make the paranormal stories feel redundant. Patient mistreatment, ice baths, solitary confinement, experimental treatments that would not be permitted today, was recorded in institutional reports that researchers have been studying since the facility closed. Thousands of patients died at Eloise over 145 years of operation. The cemetery on the grounds holds remains of those who had no family to claim them. Eloise has been featured on Ghost Hunters, Expedition X, and Destination Fear. It has been converted into a haunted attraction for Halloween, which is either a creative use of a troubled building or a complicated decision depending on your perspective. The building still stands. The history does not require supernatural enhancement to be disturbing. The supernatural stories are layered on top of a factual record that is already significant. Number 4 is in Traverse City, and the asylum there has been converted into something beautiful. What happened inside it before that conversion is harder to make beautiful. Number 4, Traverse City. The Northern Michigan Asylum opened in 1885 on a bluff above the city, with a philosophy that was genuinely progressive for its era. Dr. James Decker Munson believed that mental illness could be treated through beauty, nature, and meaningful work, rather than restraint and punishment. The asylum was designed by Gordon W. Lloyd with Victorian architecture, landscaped grounds, and patient cottages rather than wards. The early history of the Northern Michigan Asylum is genuinely more humane than most institutional histories of the period. What followed, as the facility grew, as funding contracted, as practices changed, was more complicated. The steam tunnels that connect the buildings beneath the campus were used for patient transport. Asylum twilight tours now take visitors through those tunnels by flashlight, a 90-minute walk through the 1885 underground infrastructure where patients once moved between buildings in a system designed to keep them invisible from the public. The village at Grand Traverse Commons, the redevelopment of the asylum campus into shops, cafes, and apartments, is one of the most successful adaptive reuse projects in Michigan. The buildings are beautiful. The history inside them is layered. Residents of the apartments that now occupy the former patient cottages are living in rooms where people spent decades involuntarily. That history does not disappear because the decor has been updated. Number 3, this is the one. Number 3, the area around Plainwell and Coral in Allegan and Montcalm counties, and the location of what Michigan paranormal researchers describe as some of the state's most persistently reported and least explained activity. The Dogman. The Michigan Dogman is a cryptid, a creature reported but not scientifically documented. Described consistently across unconnected witnesses as a 7-foot bipedal figure with the head of a dog, canine legs that bend backward, and eyes that reflect light like an animal's. Reports have come from rural Michigan since the 1880s. They concentrated in the Wexford County area initially, but have been reported across the northern Lower Peninsula and Upper Peninsula for over a century. In 1987, a radio DJ named Steve Cook created a song called The Legend About the Dogman as an April Fool's prank. The station received so many calls from listeners claiming to have seen the creature that Cook began documenting the accounts. The reports were too specific, too geographically consistent, and came from too many unconnected people to dismiss as responses to the prank. Cook has spent decades collecting and documenting sightings. The Phantom Finder Paranormal Database lists the Michigan Dogman as one of the state's most active cryptid categories, alongside Bigfoot sightings in the Seney Wildlife Refuge area. What makes this number 3, what keeps it up at night, is not the specific accounts. It is the pattern. Witnesses who have never spoken to each other across different decades from different parts of the state describe the same thing in the same way. A 7-foot figure, dog head, backward knees, reflective eyes, rural road, night. The consistency is the part that does not have a comfortable explanation. Number 2 has a name that every Michigan resident knows, and a story that the state has never fully resolved. Number 2, Bath, in Clinton County, a small agricultural community north of Lansing, and the site of the Bath school disaster of May 18th, 1927, the deadliest act of mass murder at a school in American history. Andrew Kehoe was a 55-year-old farmer and school board treasurer who had lost a local election and was facing foreclosure on his farm. Over the preceding months, he had secretly packed the basement of Bath Consolidated School with hundreds of pounds of explosive. On the morning of May 18th, he detonated the explosives. The north wing of the school collapsed. As rescuers gathered at the site, Kehoe drove his truck, loaded with dynamite and metal shrapnel, to the scene and detonated it, killing himself, the school superintendent, and bystanders. 36 children and 2 teachers died. 58 people were injured. The final death toll was 44. Bath, Michigan in 2026 is a quiet community. The school site has been preserved as a memorial. The Bath School Museum documents the event with photographs, artifacts, and testimony from survivors. The creepiness of Bath is not supernatural. It is the specific weight of knowing that this happened here, in a normal Michigan farming community, on a Tuesday morning in May when children were in class, and that the event was so severe it did not receive the national attention it deserved because Charles Lindbergh completed his transatlantic flight the same day. Bath is number 2, because the most disturbing histories are not always the ones with unexplained lights or animal-headed cryptids. Sometimes the most disturbing histories are the ones that are fully documented and fully real. Number 1 has a history that Michigan has been trying to process for over a century, and has not succeeded. Number 1. Saginaw, a city that appears in our Dangerous Towns video for its crime statistics, and in this video for something older and more pervasive. A documented history of paranormal activity that has made it one of the most investigated cities in Michigan. The Temple Theater in Saginaw is a 1927 vaudeville and movie palace that hosts live performances to this day. It is also the site of multiple documented paranormal investigations. The Abel Brockway House investigation series, produced by paranormal researcher Steve Shippey, has produced 3 seasons of documented activity in Saginaw. A Haunting in Saginaw, Michigan, an independent production, documented events at a specific Saginaw address that investigators describe as among the most active they have encountered. The Brockway Street investigations were significant enough to produce 3 separate seasons of content because the investigators kept returning. Saginaw's history provides context. The city was at the center of the lumber industry that stripped the northern Michigan forests in the late 1800s. A brutal economic period that left behind both wealth and profound environmental destruction. The transition from lumber to automotive manufacturing brought a different wave of prosperity and a different set of social conditions. The crime statistics that dominate Saginaw's current reputation sit on top of a city whose built environment includes genuinely beautiful 19th century architecture, the bones of a city that had different plans for itself. Saginaw is number 1 on this list because it combines every category that earns a place here. Documented paranormal investigation with multiple seasons of evidence, historic architecture with dark institutional history, and the specific atmosphere of a city that built something significant and watched it not survive in the form it was built. The creepiness of Saginaw is not one thing. It is the accumulation of everything the city has been through, concentrated in buildings that are still standing. So that's the list. 10 Michigan towns that will keep you up at night. A upper peninsula valley with a floating light that has no agreed-upon explanation. A ghost town cemetery where children's handprints appear on visitors' cars. A wooded footbridge in Kent County where local legend has kept people out of the surrounding forest for generations. An island where the last ferry leaves in the afternoon and a shipwreck rusts on the beach. A psychiatric complex featured on every paranormal television program that covers Michigan. A Victorian asylum whose underground tunnels are now flashlight tour territory. The Michigan Dogman, a century of consistent reports from unconnected witnesses describing the same 7-foot animal-headed figure. The site of the deadliest school attack in American history, which did not make national news because Lindbergh's flight happened the same day. And a city where the paranormal investigations keep returning because the investigators keep finding reasons to come back. Michigan has some of the most beautiful towns in America. It also has these 10. The same geography that produces the light on Little Traverse Bay in July produces the Paulding light in the UP Valley every night of the year. The same state. Different darkness. Subscribe to the channel. We cover Michigan every week. The version that photographs well and the version that doesn't.